But the Constitution says nothing about that elected representatives should consider the impact of polls.
I think what we definitely have to look at is the fact that polls ultimately aren't sort of the body that make our laws. I mean, Madison, while he was definitely afraid of the tyranny of the majority, what he definitely thought as well, and I believe he wrote this in the Federalist Papers, is that the Senate has to represent, or the Senate and the Congress as a whole, has to represent what the people want. And so I think polls sort of give the legislative branch an idea of what they want, what the people want. So, I mean, this all goes back to, even though the polls aren't necessarily making the decisions, they're just sort of explaining to the people in charge, here's what we want.
At the same time, polls often can reflect passion or interest, but especially with the office of the Senate, as Luther Martin argues, they help to be this enlightened self-interest because they're a little more removed from the people with their 6-year terms.
In such a large society, you can see that major problem for many of these representatives we have in government is that they need to know what our people think, and polls definitely provide this avenue. So I would say that Madison would agree with having polls, maybe not by the hour, but at least recently enough so the people know, or our representatives know what the people want.
You make the point that luxury destroys republics. It strikes me that the republic emerged, that the republic was actually destroyed when Rome achieved its greatness, and yet still the empire continued rolling on quite well for the 300 years. Were the founders more concerned with maintaining America or with maintaining the institutions they created?
Well, I think luxury, well, actually, would you mind repeating that question one more time?
Forget the preamble. Did the founders think that the institutions they were creating, did they think they were going to last forever?
Well, I mean, I guess in Federalist 50, I believe Madison explains that basically, I mean, I think that they definitely want to preserve a republic, because I believe in Federalist 50, Madison explains that a republic has never survived without a Senate, and so we need a Senate. So I mean, when he's making this argument that we need the Senate so the Republican government can survive, I think that would just sort of show that he's advocating that we keep America and its institutions.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, even though this is the last day, and you've worked very, very hard to get here, and you've obviously accomplished a great deal to be here today. As part of our responsibility, we just want to give you some feedback.
Sean, you gave me a really good answer to a really confusing question there. I think I confused myself before I got through that question. But it was a great discussion. You came up with, I wrote down a lot of your very strong one-liners: luxury destroys republics, and conquest, and narcissism of a few men. And what was remarkable is that you thought about the meanings of each of those. There's always a temptation to come up with a really good phrase and then not to think about it. You thought about all of those. So every time we tried to trip you up with something, you were back and ready with an answer. And that's a very strong response. So I enjoyed being part of this conversation.
I agree. I thought you did a terrific job. We all lose sleep, at least people of our generation, because so many times the parallels are being drawn between Rome and the United States, and whether the United States is moving down that same path, perhaps in part due to war expansionism and deficit spending. And so I was hoping to get some answers from you, and I didn't get them. So it sounds like maybe there aren't the clean answers I was hoping for. And so I'll just go home and continue to lose sleep. But you've given me a lot to think about, which I really appreciate. I would hope for clarity in a couple of places. I loved your phrase at the outset about the narcissism of a few led to the decline and fall of Rome. And so I was trying to push with, so do we have institutional solutions to that? Or can the narcissism of a few lead us as a republic down the same path? And I'm still struggling with that. I would urge you to go back to the notes of the convention, not to the Federalist Papers. Go back to the convention. It's all online on the Teaching American History Grant website, so it's fun for modern readers. And look at the creation of the Electoral College. Given the choices the founders had, what could they have done? They couldn't define citizenship because of the problem of slavery. Therefore, they couldn't decide, at least in the national constitution, who gets to vote. How in the world are they to get around that conundrum? Madison proposed direct election of the presidency. What happened? I think it's more complicated than they didn't trust the people. And I think some of our problems today remain almost as complicated as some were at the founding. Rome will continue to be our nagging, evil twin Skippy on the shoulder, and you've given us some great material to think about as we struggle with the analogies. So thanks for a great presentation.
I have nothing to add. I mean, you've heard it from everyone. I guess the only thing I was trying to get to is this whole notion of the narcissism of the few. And I was hoping we get the Citizens United case, which effectively creates, some would argue, a new narcissistic few, those with very deep pockets that can fund political campaigns. We didn't get there, but that's okay. One just caution, I think this is complicated stuff. And what we always like to see is taking the material, there's a reason we're studying the Roman Republic. It's to learn, understand its failings so that we don't repeat those in the United States. So it's important to kind of throw you back to history. And at times you have to be very careful in this particular unit because it's very hard to avoid taking your own opinion and imposing that on what we're really looking for, which is make your point and substantiate it. It's hard to do when you're making your own personal opinion. But I think you did a very, very nice job. You know the material, and it was a great discussion. So thank you very much.
Thank you.